psychotic break, right? It's one of those phrases that pops up everywhere. It's like on news and dramas and even true crime documentaries, and it always sounds absolutely terrifying. And so I kind of wanted to just ask, what actually is psychosis and what does it mean when someone has a psychotic break, right?
Right, so let's start by sweeping away the television nonsense, first of all. Okay?
Right.
So, psychotic break isn't a formal diagnosis.
Right.
It's just shorthand for the moment when someone crosses from distorted thoughts or stress into full-blown psychosis when their connection to reality gives way.
Right. Okay. So then psychosis itself is like an umbrella term?
Right. So psychosis
Right.
isn't an illness in and of itself, in its own right.
Okay.
It's a set of symptoms that can appear in lots of different conditions. Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, severe depression, drug intoxication, certain medical conditions. All of these can produce psychosis. What they share is a total loss of reality testing. So the person can't reliably tell what's real and what's not.
Okay, which is quite different from DID where reality is still intact, right?
Right, completely different. So in DID, as you'll see in the video we did on that, the world is real, but the self is fragmented. In psychosis, the self is still in one piece, but the world goes sideways. So the mind starts misinterpreting reality. It starts seeing or hearing things that aren't there, or forming beliefs that aren't true.
Okay, so that's the hallucinations and delusions that people talk about.
Yes. I suppose it's worth explaining what that are. Hallucinations is a sensory experience without an external source.
Right.
So basically something is in front of you but isn't in front of you. So you're hearing voices, you're seeing figures, you're feeling things on your skin. People don't realize, when people think of hallucinations, they think of visual hallucinations, but there are different kinds. There's auditory and there's sensory hallucinations, So a delusion is a fixed sense, a fixed false belief.
Right.
It's paranoia, grandiosity, or the conviction that events on television are coded messages meant for you. And that's how it differs from paranoia, because people use that word interchangeably. They say delusional or psychotic. They're not the same thing.
No.
So they can appear gradually or they can hit like a storm.
Okay, so is that what people mean by a psychotic break, that kind of sudden storm thing?
Right, yeah, pretty much. It's when the scaffolding that's holding someone's reality together completely collapses. So they may have been under immense stress, for example, losing sleep, perhaps using drugs. Maybe it's untreated bipolar disorder. And then it tips. And from the outside, that looks completely abrupt. Yesterday they were fine.
Right.
Today they're completely convinced that the neighbors are spying on them through their plug sockets. But often there are early signs, sleep loss, agitation, withdrawal, strange coincidences starting to feel pretty significant.
Okay, that kind of creeping sense that everything has meaning, that it's all connected.
Right. The clinical terms is the ideas of reference. The person begins to assign personal significance to random events. And, it can feel exhilarating at first, almost spiritual, until it spirals out of control.
Okay, so what actually causes that spiral then?
It's a combination of factors. There's the biological vulnerability. Genetics also play a role. And then there's the environmental stresses like trauma, drugs, sleep deprivation. That can push the brain into overdrive. Neurochemically, we see excess dopamine activity in certain pathways of the brain, particularly in the mesolimbic system, which amplifies the salience. So everything feels meaningful, basically, even when it isn't. And stress hormones and disrupted sleep. So reality really starts to blur.
Wow. So when you're kind of inside that state, it all feels completely real, though?
Absolutely real. Absolutely real. And that's what makes it so frightening and terrifying and sometimes dangerous. If you truly believe the government's tracking you or that you've been chosen by God, you're going to act accordingly. But
That's scary.
in defense of what's true. That's why in true crime cases, you sometimes see crimes committed during an acute psychotic episode. So it's important to understand that it's not evil, it's terror and disorganization.
Right, and then when it's reported, the phrase psychotic break gets thrown away as if it, like, explains absolutely everything, right?
Yeah, and it rarely does. You see it used all the time on things like Criminal Minds and CSI and all the rest of it. But the break itself is the symptom, not the story. Most people who experience psychosis never harm anyone. They're much more likely to harm themselves than become victims of the psychosis than to harm other people.
Right.
So what matters clinically is what's caused it. Is it schizophrenia? Is it bipolar? Is it drug use? Is it trauma? Because that determines treatment and prognosis.
Right. So what does treatment look like then?
Well, two main things. Medication, obviously, and therapy. So antipsychotic medication reduces the dopamine activity and quiets the hallucinations and the delusions. But that's only part of it. You know, the psychological therapies like cognitive behavioral approaches and stuff like that, trauma work, family support, these all help the person rebuild reality and understand the triggers and then regain confidence. Stabilizing sleep. I know I keep talking about sleep, but people don't put enough importance on the importance of sleep.
I agree.
And routine.
Absolutely.
You know, so stabilizing sleep and routine is absolutely crucial. It's astonishing how many relapses start when people have missed a few nights' sleep.
I absolutely can see that, and I totally agree. But recovery is possible, isn't it? You know, people imagine that this sort of thing's permanent, don't they?
No, it's not permanent. Recovery is very possible, you know. Some people have a single psychotic episode and never have another one. Right. Others live with recurring episodes but stay completely stable with treatment. The idea that psychosis equals lifelong deterioration is completely outdated. You know, early intervention services have made a massive difference. Massive.
That's amazing. And you know, and for families, it's not about arguing the person out of their delusions, is it?
Oh, you know? Good God, no, absolutely not. Never argue reality. It's about safety and empathy. You know, you can say, I understand that this feels real to you, while gently keeping boundaries with actual reality. Arguing it, which a lot of people do, that's the default. All that does is deepen the paranoia.
Right, and that's tragic, really, that something is so treatable is still framed as monstrous. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In the media and in true crime. You true crime crazies are just as responsible. Psychotic gets used as shorthand for violent or unhinged. And it's just not true. In real life, it's an experience, not a personality. You know, it's frightening, it's often brief, and it's nearly always treatable.
Right. So when someone says they had a psychotic break, what we're really talking about is a moment where the brain's ability to test reality collapsed, sometimes from illness or sometimes from, I don't know, stress or sometimes from drugs, like you said. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a mind under siege. It's not a monster that has been unleashed.
Paul, you sound almost compassionate.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. I have a reputation to uphold.